try to be a sponge. The ideal student is a sponge. That's what the ideal student is, as a beginning, which is consume as much information, that's obviously kosher information, as you can by reading as many kosher books as you can. That's the ideal. You could ask questions. We welcome questions. We love questions. But truth be told is that in the beginning you don't really know what to ask and what not to ask and how the answer would even affect you. That's why I always tell you guys, what's the nafkamina? Meaning, what's the point of your question? Now, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to tell you that you're wasting your time or my time, chas v'shalom. What I'm trying to tell you is that the way that you're supposed to ask a question is that it has to have a purpose. Meaning, if I'm going to ask you a question, that means that your answer, whatever it may be, will affect my life. I'm not just digging for information because it's mentally stimulating. I'm not just digging for information because I just want to know what Moses' mother's name was. If I don't have any reason to want to know her name, to need to know her name, I'm not going to ask that question because I'm just taking up brain space unnecessarily. I'm taking up time in the world unnecessarily, which means you need to ask questions that will affect your life. So, the way you got to look at question is this. Okay, I have 500 questions in my head. 490 of them will not affect my life. They're interesting. They're mentally stimulating, perhaps. But they won't affect my life. And the sages teach us time and time again, such as the Gaon Vilna and others, that if your learning does not affect your life and improve your character traits, it's not Torah. It's not good. So, if 490 out of 500 questions that I have in my head will not affect my life, guess what? I'm not going to ask them until I get all of the answers of the first 10. Not saying I'm never going to ask them, period. At one point, I may want to go into the pool and just go and mentally stimulate. But only after I answer my priority list. The 10 that will affect my life. Once I have the 10 that affect my life answered, and I somehow miraculously don't have any more questions, then I'll go into the 490. But until I have those 10, why? Because those 10 can save my life. Those 10 can save my eternity. The other 490 are just fun. Just fun. So you got to ask 10. Now the beautiful thing is with Torah, is that if you're going to get those 10 questions answered, it's going to grow branches into 100 new questions that you need to know also. And the more you know the things you need to know, the more questions you'll have about other things you need to know. If all of your questions have to do with things that you don't necessarily need to know, that means you don't know enough. And you don't know valuable information for you. So you got to try to position yourself in a way that you're at the best position to learn the most important information, to do the best possible thing you can do to be the best version of you. Now, sometimes there are certain people that will ask questions that simply to challenge. Simply to challenge. One of the examples is this week's parasha. Who asked the question that just to challenge the system? This week's parasha Bereshit. Who asked the question to challenge the system? The Nachash. It says the Nachash was Arum. What does it mean the Nachash was Arum? Clever, he had a plan. He had a plan to do something. So Nachash היה ערום מכל חיית השדה, אשר עשה אדוני אלוהים, ויאמר אל האישה, אף כי אמר אלוהים לא תאכלו מכל עץ הגן. So in Sefer Bereshit, in chapter 3, says that the snake was cunning beyond any beast of the field that Hashem made. And he said to the woman, he said to Chava, did perhaps God say you shall not eat of any tree of the garden? No. Does the Nachash know what God said? He does. So why is he asking the question? That's the question I have for you guys today. Why is he asking the question if he already knows the answer? No, you get the first chance at it.
To avoid telling her what to do, but putting in a question that makes her...
To manipulate her answer.
To manipulate her. So he's asking a question, he knows the answer because he wants to manipulate her. What does that teach us? What does that teach you?
Questions can be manipulated.
Aside from that.
Don't be like the snake.
Don't be like the snake. Chazaku Baruch. Don't ask a question if you already know the answer to. Because if you do, that means you have a bad agenda. But you also know that people are flawed, which makes you evil, because you're taking advantage of them. Hence the reason why he got cursed permanently, because what he did was evil. It wasn't just bad, it wasn't just wrong, it was evil. Because he knew she will likely mess up with the answer. And she did. What did she do? When he told her this, what he told her, the woman responds to the serpent, to the snake, of the fruit of any tree of the garden we may eat. Of the fruit of the tree which is in the center of the garden, he said, you shall neither eat nor touch it, lest you die. For all intents and purposes, what she answered was correct, except it was 100% wrong. It was 90%, 99% correct and 100% wrong. Why? Because he asked her a question that he already knew. Didn't God tell you not to eat from the garden? Did he really tell you that? Not to eat from the garden? And as if he doesn't know. And she says to him, no, he said don't eat from this specific tree, but don't touch it. Meaning, she added a little bit of her own opinion. She assumed, if he said don't eat, he probably meant also don't touch it too. That was one extra rule. That was one extra rule that was not from the Torah. That was not from Hashem. That was her own mess up, because she added her own opinion when it wasn't welcomed. And that gave his evil an opening to do whatever he wanted and convince her that this is all a conspiracy, you should eat, you'll see, everything's going to be okay. And unfortunately she fell, and long story short, here we are today. So you see, Rabotai Karim, is that sometimes there are certain people that they look to sin, they look to manipulate, they look to cheat, they look to lie, they look to do evil, and their place is in Gehenom, even if they mean well according to themselves. Why? Evil is not welcome by Hashem. So sometimes there are certain people that ask questions without a purpose. Sometimes the purpose is evil even if it looks like a righteous thing. Why? Because they know the answer, but they don't like it. They want a different answer. And they know that they can get that different answer by manipulating the system a little bit. By asking the question a certain way that maybe you're not going to catch on and you're going to mess up. So I can't, hey, listen, the rabbi told me I'm allowed. Hey, he told me I'm allowed. Yeah, he didn't tell you you're allowed to kill people, you Rasha Merusha. No, I told him, can I go to the bar? He said I can go. Yeah, but he didn't know there's going to be bar fights and murders and things like that. He didn't say allowed for that. Hey, I said I'm going to the bar. You should have known. I should have known. Yeah, okay, buddy. You should, okay, buddy. This is some people. Some people are looking to sin. Some people are looking to sin, and they're looking to use the Torah for that. And the Ramban, Nachmanides, calls it Naval Birshut Torah. Despicable in the name of the Torah. People that use the Torah in order to manipulate the Torah and everyone around it and arrive at what they desire to do without the Torah. And unfortunately today there are many people that do it on a regular basis, some public, some private. This is why the most critical teachings that a person can learn today is what Hashem said from the beginning. Reshit Chokhmah Yirat Hashem. The beginning of wisdom is fear of Hashem.
B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, we're very excited to offer you the new Bezrat Hashem app 3.0. It's a newer, faster app full of Torah, lots of Kedusha by the Shiurim that we do, myself, Rav Ephraim, Rav Chaim, where you'll have also newer features where you're able to use the app while you're using other applications on your phone. You'll be able to share the lectures directly from the app. You'll be able to donate online and support our Kiruv and our Torah work that we're doing. And the most exciting feature is that you'll be able to actually ask questions directly on the app and get answers from the rabbis directly from the app. This is something unprecedented, and Baruch Hashem will be able to offer it. Thank you again for all of your support. Check it out. Make sure you have the kosher Torah that will re-energize your neshama each and every single day. Kol tu b'chava tzlacha.